Is it okay to eat haram food? No. But is it? No. But is it? Well, when Muslims first began emigrating to Western countries, a ruling was issued that in countries like England, it was permissible to eat non-halal food. I'm here to answer the question on whether here and now in the UK, in 2025, it is still okay to eat food that is not halal. I'm on the west coast of England, away from Muslim-populated cities like Bradford, Birmingham, Bolton or Beaconsfield, far away from halal butchers, breakfast bars, brunch spots or boa bun places. However, even here, deep in the West Country, much to Reform's chagrin, there are still Muslims who live, work and reside here. I'm going to be making my way down England's Atlantic Highway to find out whether or not it really is possible to eat halal. And here we are at the beginning of our road trip across the Atlantic Highway. It will take us through amazing towns, beautiful scenery, and hurricane-style weather. But for now, all I'm looking for is some breakfast. Now we're driving down England's Atlantic Highway, which is actually called the A39, and it runs all the way from Devon to the end of Cornwall Penzance. And I'm currently on my way to Barnstaple to find some breakfast. Now normally you don't really have to worry about whether breakfast food is halal, seeing as it doesn't really contain any meat products. So I'm not worried about this meal. Lunch and dinner, maybe. But breakfast, I feel like we should be able to find a suitable option quite easily. But you never know, this is the West Country. They might fry everything in lard, you know. So what actually is halal food? We see the signs everywhere, but what do they actually mean? Well, although some people think that halal refers to only meat, halal actually refers to any permissible food that a Muslim can eat. This can be fruit, veg, eggs, Victoria sponge cakes, but most commonly it's used to describe meat. This is because halal meat specifically needs to meet certain prerequisites for it to be considered halal. So let's take an example. Say I want to make a chicken sandwich, farm to table, halal style. Firstly, I need to make sure that the chicken is slaughtered with the specific ritual of zabiha. That means that the chicken has to be well looked after and healthy. Then, when being butchered, it shouldn't see the knife and its jugular vein should be swiftly cut to minimize any suffering. While we make the cut, we need to recite the phrase Bismillah, which means in the name of Allah. This makes the chicken meat for our chicken sandwich halal. That takes us to the second thing we need to consider, and that is cross-contamination. Cross-contamination is when non-halal food is mixed with halal food during the food preparation phase. This can happen when the foods are cooked using the same utensils, in the same oil, or on the same surfaces. So with all those things taken into account, we end up with our halal chicken sandwich. Now I know what you're thinking. You can Google halal food no matter where you are in this country, and even here in the Southwest. You'll be able to find a handful of halal restaurants, probably named Fahad's frequently fried Kentucky-style chicken. But the thing is, those options are fine if you're only here for a few days. If you're here on holiday, if you're here visiting, if you're here just to look at the sights. But if you're living here, if you're spending every single day in these areas, it's not realistic to expect someone to have to eat that kind of food. Because A, it's incredibly unhealthy, 2, it's a lot more expensive, and 3, having to eat the same thing every single day is a prisoner diet. It's not really something that you want to have to live with. So with those explanations taken into account, we begin to see the reasoning behind the ruling that was followed by so many people not that long ago. But where is the Islamic backing behind not having to eat halal food? It's all well and good making the argument about quality of life, but that doesn't mean that Islamic legal definitions of what's permissible can change. Well, the foundation of this ruling, or fatwa, comes from the core source of all Islamic rules and regulations, and that is the Quran. In chapter 5, Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 5, it says, "Today all good, pure foods have been made lawful for you. Similarly, the food of the people of the book is permissible for you, and yours is permissible for them." And what does this mean? Well, in essence, the people of the book can be considered modern-day Christians and Jewish people. So the fatwa states that if you are emigrating to a Christian or Jewish country, then their food is lawful for you as it states in the Quran. Just like halal meat has ritual slaughter, where all requirements have to be met, the Jewish and Christian traditions have the same ritualistic slaughter with similar requirements that need to be met for food to be considered permissible to eat. With that basis, we see how it is perfectly fine for a Muslim to come to the UK and eat non-halal meat, as long as it isn't pig meat, as that can never be halal. However, like with everything in life, we need to understand this fatwa in the context of the modern age.
Secularism.
Secularization.
Secularism.
Secularism.
Britain is an increasingly secular country.
Secularism. It is the principle of separation of religion and state. It ensures that public life, government, and laws are conducted on non-religious principles, independent of any religious institution or the rules that have been derived from their scripture. But what on earth does this have to do with eating halal food? Well, when you separate public life, institutions, and organizations from all religious doctrine and rulings, then you can no longer confidently state that the way that any food is being prepared falls in line with the religious requirements. This means that everything I previously said doesn't really count anymore. The farms, the abattoirs, even the butchers no longer follow religious teachings when slaughtering or preparing the meat. This is why things like halal and kosher certificates exist, because the food specifically is prepared outside of the normal production lines. There are separate halal and kosher abattoirs and butchers. This is necessary because the normal animal meat pipeline doesn't abide by the specific religious requirements that are necessary to make meat permissible to eat. And that's the biggest difference between now and 50 years ago. The separation of church and state has meant that we can't consider the UK to be solely a Christian country anymore. And while as a whole, that's been a net positive for Muslims, in this specific situation, it means that it's slightly harder to find food. However, is that still the case? Even now in 2025, is it still prohibitively difficult for a Muslim to come and live in this part of the country and find food that is permissible to eat? That is the question that I am trying to answer. So we're nearly arriving to Barnstaple. Hopefully I can find some breakfast because I am starving. I've arrived in Barnstaple, also donned my rain jacket as the British autumn weather has reared its head. Now it's time to find some breakfast food. Luckily, the Barnstaple annual carnival is today, so it might improve my chances. I guess we'll see. I decided that my best bet for finding food would be to head to the town centre, the heart of these seaside towns. I did see this butcher's, but it looked way too intimidating for me to go ask whether the meat was halal or not. I didn't really want to get hate crimed this early in the morning. After walking around aimlessly for what felt like forever, I started to realize that maybe this wasn't going to be as easy as I thought. We've now farm shops. I'm going to try that instead. Farm shop wasn't successful, but there's another street that I haven't checked down, so I'm going to go have a nosy there. Here I was thinking I could get a saffron cake for breakfast, a Cornish delicacy, only to find out that the ingredients had lard in it. Always gotta check. Okay, this might be harder than I thought. Now you're probably thinking, why doesn't this guy just go and get a Greg's vegetarian pastry and shut up about how difficult it is to find food? And you know what? I'm thinking that as well. But for this video, I'm trying to find raw ingredients to make breakfast to try to prove that people who are living here have affordable halal options and they don't need to go out to a coffee shop or a Greg's every single day. Okay, so the high street was a disaster. Complete waste of time. But I've realized that I'm looking for ingredients to make food. I'm trying to make that point that, you know, you can actually get the ingredients to make food at home. You don't have to go out to eat. So the high street is probably the wrong place for that. I need to go to a store or a shop or something like that to actually find the raw ingredients. So, okay, I'm gonna go down to the second stop on the Atlantic Highway and hope that I can find some ingredients for lunch, because I am quite hungry now. Yeah. Seeing as we skip breakfast, I think I'm going to have a liquid pick-me-up to get me through to lunch. I can already feel my heart rate climbing. Yeah, the weather has really turned. It is rather awful now. Quite rainy weather.
This brings us to the last thing that we need to consider when talking about halal food, and that is the fact that in some instances it is very difficult to find halal food, which takes us to the concept of darura. So what is darura? Well, the definition of the word means necessity, but the wider principle is in situations of necessity, what is normally impermissible becomes permissible. So when you take this principle and apply it to food, there is an argument that has been made that for people who need to eat meat as necessity, that in places where you can't find halal food or any alternative, then it becomes permissible to eat non-halal meat. But the world has changed since the argument was made.
Is it still the fact that if you are living in these areas, there is no alternative kinds of food that you can eat? There's no halal sources of meat that you can find. There's no substitutes that you can adopt.
So as I make my way down the rest of the beautiful, albeit rainy, Atlantic Highway, I'm going to put to the test whether or not it is possible to eat only halal.
So I've arrived in Bude. I've arrived in the second location of the Atlantic Highway trip to find whether or not it is easy and possible to find halal food to eat. So as of now, it has proven not possible to find food, as I wasn't able to get any breakfast. However, it's now lunchtime, so I'm gonna go out and try to find some lunch. So my first mistake was going to the town centre to try to find food, which I won't do again. So now I am heading to a shop to see if I can get some lunch, some ingredients to make lunch.
And so with a new strategy formulated, I set off to a grocery shop to see if I could find some ingredients to make my lunch. After routing to the closest shop on Google Maps, I went in to try to find something to make for lunch. It was at this point when I realized I really should have planned out these meals better, but I'm going to skip over the 30 minutes I spent wandering the store trying to figure out what to eat. Let's just jump to me having found everything I needed to make a meal.
Okay, I have successfully bought some ingredients. Let's go find a place to cook all this up so I can finally have some lunch. The sun's come out as well.
As the day had grown so warm and sunny, I decided to set up and prepare my food at the edge of a cliff overlooking the beautiful ocean. What could possibly go wrong?
So what did we get from the shops? Spaghetti, some pasta sauce, and some no beef meatballs. Plant Pioneers. So I think this is going to be an interesting dish. No, I forgot the water. Oh, it's hella windy. Okay, the wind's blowing from everywhere, it seems. Jeez. Everything's gone far. I always choose the hardest things to do, don't I? I can never just do something easy, like how many dessert shops can I go in one day? Why, honestly, I think I'm getting a bit hangry. I'm definitely feeling a bit windswept. Alright. Let's wedge this.
At this point I had 2 cameras down and couldn't even set up my stove without it blowing into the sea. A wise man would probably have stopped and moved somewhere else at this point. Unfortunately, I have never claimed to be a wise man.
Alright, I will do this. The camera fell. I didn't even notice it. That's how windy it is. Oh, both cameras have fallen. Impressive that you're still standing, actually. Ugh.
After uprighting both cameras, I had to track back down to the car to retrieve the bottle of water that I needed to cook the pasta.
Don't know if this is going to be enough water. Looks like it's about 750 milliliters, which could be enough, but also could not be enough at all. I guess we'll see. I got the water. Let's get cooking.
It was right here that I realized that all the cameras had died, so please enjoy just the audio of me discovering the fact that I had forgotten all the batteries back at the car.
No! 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 Ah! I forgot the bloody camera batteries.
I'm going to skip over the rest of my breakdown to me actually cooking my lunch.
Okay, it is incredibly windy, but let's get started. Try not to fall down. I know it's a bit much, but just control yourself. Okay. It's incredibly windy. I don't know why I chose here. This was a mistake. I admit this was a mistake, but we're here, so we move. It's raining now as well, so it's brilliant. Fantastic. Give me a second. One teeny tiny second. Chair's fallen over as well. Okay, fantastic, fantastic. Is that even recording? I don't know. Okay, all right. Try not to fall over again. Okay, leave no trace. Blame neck. Okay. All right, what are we cooking things on? All right, the pasta first. Okay, first things first. Pasta. Passata, spaghetti. I'm gonna say 500 ml, which I guess is about that much, maybe that much. We'll see. Who knows? At this point, I don't even care. I'm not even that hungry anymore. I haven't eaten all day, don't care anymore. Okay. Oh shoot, I should boil this up. Now remember, this is a cooking show now. It's so windy here. This is it's laughable. This is not gonna cook. This should not be used to judge my camping or cooking capabilities. Look at that view though. That's why we're doing it here. Ridiculous place to do it, but beautiful view, beautiful view. Alright. Let's put a lid on that. Now remember, what was I saying? When cooking pasta, there's a pepper granule in this salt shaker. When cooking pasta, you want the water to be as salty as? Let's pretend I didn't do that. The salt's flying everywhere except for in the pan. Alright, if I do it over here, some of it ends up in the pot. Alright, you know what? It doesn't need to be that salty actually. Yeah, people over exaggerate. It's going alright. Why am I doing this again? And there's so much wind. Oh, I got mud on my coat because I fell over there. But you know, we move. We move. Okay, let's open this pasta. I don't know how much to use. Maybe like some pieces. A few things we don't consider when discussing halal meat is the fact that non-meat substitutes have become a lot more prevalent. It's a lot easier to get something like meatless meatballs. Oh, that's actually boiling nicely. Okay, turn that up a bit higher. It's a lot easier to get something like meatless meatballs than it was. I mean, these things didn't even exist 10 years ago, let alone 20. So the fact that I can go to a shop in Bude and get meat substitute, no beef meatballs, oh, lightly seasoned, okay, means that the entire conversation has changed since it was had in the 70s. Oh, it's actually starting to properly rain now. Perfect. That should be enough, right? Yeah, I'm saying that that's enough. Okay, I'm gonna put my hood up for stylistic reasons. And because it's actually starting to properly rain. Let's put the lid back on this box. Oh shoot. Let's not drop the stove while it's on. Oh, the chair fell over. I don't know how long ago, but there you go. How would one cook these meatballs? Let's see. Oven cook from frozen. I don't have an oven. Preheat oven. Alright, well, let's hope you can fry them. Alright, well, I guess we're having it a little al dente, seeing as it's not really cooking anymore. Keep the lid on, genius. Yeah. It's not the right oil. Oh shoot. Okay, that boiled over. Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's nearly ready. I don't know, how do you check pasta? You throw it against the wall. Yeah, the sea is stunning. Absolutely stunning. It just looks a bit not done. Alright, you know what? I'm calling it. We don't have time for this. You leave some of the water in for a reason. I have no idea why, but you know, that's what everyone says. So I guess we'll do it. Okay, let's cook these meatballs. Oh, it's starting to rain. It's starting and stopping raining like every now and then, okay? So I'm not going crazy. I'm not being like, oh, it's starting to rain every 20 minutes. That's what rain does, you know. Ooh, okay, interesting. Interesting. That's what they look like. Oh, I should heat this pan up. It's like early autumn, so I thought I'd be alright. But, geez, I was wrong. Now this is like 3 portions. So, I mean, I've used a lot right now. But that's only because I don't have a fridge. Oh, they are sticking to the pan. Well, this has gone terribly. So they smell good. They do smell good. I say those are nicely cooked. Oh, cheese. Okay. Now you might be thinking, oh, in spaghetti bolognese or whatever, you don't mix in the sauce. And you would be wrong if you think that. Why would you make the person eating the food do extra work? Let's toss these in. Alright, let's serve this up. Now it doesn't look the best, but it smells really good. So hopefully it tastes good. Oh, this was an awful place to cook. I have leftovers as well. I'm not sure what to do with them. A beverage. I feel like I deserved it after that experience. Okay. Alright. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Some of the meatballs are definitely not cooked. Also, the spaghetti is not cooked. It's al dente, it's al dente. You know, what even is cooking? Well, that went everywhere. Oh my goodness. Oh man. You can't see it on the GoPro, but there's a massive rainstorm heading this way. Okay, I'm eating really quickly. Oh, I'm never gonna make it. I'm never gonna make it.
Unfortunately, I was right.
Oh. Oh, the rain against my hood is awful. Oh, God. The table flew away. I can't open. Okay. I need to get to the car. I'm drenched. I'm absolutely drenched. Oh! What the hell? I'm speechless. I'm soaked as well. I'm both speechless and soaked. So, although I didn't get to eat much of the meal, it was good. It it didn't taste bad, which I think is important. Did it taste like meat? Of the 3 bites of it that I had, for taste-wise, it's a good imitation. Texturally, I don't think it does. I think you can definitely tell that it's a little too soft. But that might have been because I didn't cook it properly, you know? This weather is actually insane. Alright, I'm gonna finish my lunch, seeing as I didn't get to eat the spaghetti meatballs properly, and then make my way to the 3rd stop for today, where we're gonna have dinner. One of the ways to understand how food changed and adapted in this country is to understand how immigration changed and adapted in this country.
World War II, a conflict which changed the world. And as Britain was on the front lines of the war, it changed British life forever. After the war, although victorious, Britain was still reeling from the devastation that had been brought upon it. Whole cities had been decimated in the German Blitz, and more than 450,000 people from the UK died in the conflict. This had a major impact on the rebuilding efforts after the end of the war. The country had lost a significant portion of its workforce and had to replace that shortfall from somewhere. And that somewhere was from former British colonies. These former colonies had already provided soldiers to support Britain in the war effort, and now, after the end of the war, Britain leaned on these Commonwealth countries to help in its rebuilding efforts. This leads us to the British Nationality Act of 1948. This act allowed citizens from all over the Commonwealth to come and settle in Britain, and was implemented to help Britain rebuild. Commonwealth citizens from all over the world immigrated to Britain and began to help with the post-war reconstruction efforts. This included many people who came from the former British colonies of India and Pakistan. Muslims from these countries had the opportunity to come, live and work within Britain, and by the 1950s, entire Muslim communities had begun to develop within the UK. So now, when we look at everything in this context, it becomes easier to understand how the conversation around halal food has developed and changed. When these Muslims were first immigrating to the UK in the 50s, Britain was very much a Christian country, where institutions, organizations, and even the government all upheld Christian doctrine and values. And on top of that, when we look at the way that daily life was structured back then, where factory workers were provided food in a canteen that definitely wasn't concerned with cross-contamination, and that was the only food available to the workers, so the choice was to eat that or go hungry, then we get to see how the principle of darura or necessity gets to be applied in that situation too. The question is, can any of these justifications still be used today? Well, seeing as I have only been able to have 3 soggy bites of pasta, I'm going to hold my thoughts until we get further down the Atlantic Highway. We've arrived in Wadebridge. Wadebridge? I think that's what it's called. There's no signs anywhere. But I'm gonna go to another grocery store to try to get some food, and hopefully this time I can actually eat it. And water. I need water, definitely. I've put on my thicker jacket because it's getting quite cold. But yeah, let's go get some food. After the eventful cooking escapades in Bude, my energy levels were falling quite low. So after grabbing the essentials, I sped my way through the rest of the shop so I could get some dinner made. Okay, we've won the food. The sun is shining, so I think it's time to put on some overly large sunglasses. Let's go. This chair is still wet. Okay, we are making boil in the bag rice. Oh,
2 flame baked naans and chana masala. Now I know what you're thinking. Ready in 2 minutes, chana masala and boil the bag rice. I thought you were saying that you're gonna make ingredients only food. And you're right. I have had a long day though. Cut me a break, please. Right, this is 1 portion of rice. I might have 2 portions of rice. I haven't eaten except for 3 bites of spaghetti, which then got washed out. Ooh, whoa, it's like the before times. The lid came off.
At this point in the day, the lack of food had left me in a semi-catatonic state, so while I quietly prepare my food, I think it might be time to talk about the fact that what I'm doing on the Atlantic Highway doesn't really apply to any large city or town within the UK. As we've already seen, when Muslims first started immigrating to the UK in the 50s, they were arriving into a country that had never even heard of the word halal, let alone had any halal food available to eat. However, we are no longer in the 50s, it is now the decade of the Roaring Twenties. Unlike the previous Roaring Twenties, this is not a period of economic prosperity, technological advancement, or cultural optimism, but one thing British Muslims definitely have is access to halal food. The first Muslims who came to settle in the UK all those years ago didn't just accept that they would never be able to eat halal ever again, and for the past 70 years, Muslim communities all over the country have been creating and expanding accessibility for halal food. So much so that some companies that have recently opened up branches in the UK, like Canadian Tim Hortons and American Popeyes, all serve halal food in their restaurants. Takeaways? No, restaurants. I ain't being snobbish. Now, Muslims who don't live near large metropolitan areas still may not have as easy access to halal food, but I think I've shown today that you can definitely find food for at least 2 meals. Well, 1.5.
First proper meal all day. And yes, I know technically it doesn't count because I barely even made it, but cut me some slack. We'll do better tomorrow. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Oh, that was a nice meal. The first and last meal of the day. Well, second. First and a half. Alright, I need to sort out the car. I'm gonna pray Maghrib, and then I'm probably just gonna lie in bed until Isha, and then turn in for the night. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Day 2. It's Fajr time. The sun hasn't risen yet.
I'm just gonna brush my teeth, and then maybe make some tea. Okay, was yesterday a roaring success? No. I didn't expect it to be quite so difficult to get food for breakfast. That was surprising to me. Forgot to bring a spoon. Oh well. Not much left in here. I think in order to get food in these kind of places, you are quite reliant on large supermarkets. But I mean, that can be said for big towns as well, you know. Should be 1 cup. Nice and warm. Alright, so now while we wait for the water to boil, what are my thoughts about yesterday? Firstly, I wasn't expecting it to be so difficult to find food for breakfast. The main issue was I didn't want to go to one of those big standard coffee shops like Greg's, and I think the area that I was just in didn't have many local bakeries that I could get like a loaf of bread from. So because of that, it was harder to find food than I thought. Lunch, however, was relatively easy to get food from. Eating it proved to be a bit more challenging than expected, but I think that's more to do with the weather than anything. And then with dinner, I don't think that can count as making food because everything was just pre-made. You can really tell that Cornwall is the place to come for surfing because it really is quite perfect. Have I really answered any questions? I don't think so. Has this been a complete waste of time? Maybe. I guess we'll see. Has this given any further clarity on how Muslims live their life in the UK? Perchance. Perchance. That's all I can say. I keep checking the water, and then when I lift off the lid, a lot of the heat escapes. So I just need to be a bit patient, I think. We've got 3 more stops along the Atlantic Highway, taking us all the way till the end. Will we gain any further clarity? Inshallah. Ooh. Water's boiled. How much to say? How much to put? 3 teaspoons. Okay, I'm going to be very delicate, very exact with my measurements. I'm somewhat of a scientist, you know. That's not true. I'm barely an engineer. That was definitely not 3 teaspoons. I don't have a spoon to start with, so. Yeah, that's good enough. You know, here's the science. Pay attention. This is the science. As it boils, the rolling boil of the water will mix in the powder. So one does not even really need a spoon. You only need a spoon if you don't engage your brain. I can be quoted. I'm pretty sure Einstein said that. That's not true, Einstein didn't say that. Oh, it's boiling over. So normally with chai, you bring it to the boil and then you take it off the boil. And you do that multiple times and it improves the flavor. I don't know if this powdered nonsense works in the same way. I guess we'll see. It's 8:20. We still have about 2 hours before anything opens. But I might go down to that beach. If you don't see beach footage right now, cut to the beach. If I'm not at the beach right now, I got lazy. Or parking was too expensive. It's one or the other, really. Yeah, yesterday was quite a tiring day. I think because of the being caught in the torrential downpour. I mean, most of the stuff in the car is still soaking. You know what, this is good enough. I think we're done. Alright, this is my review of Drink Me Chai. I didn't drink any that time. It's quite warm. Let's let it cool down for a bit. Alright, let's give it a taste. I bit my tongue. Immediately burnt my tongue. It also tastes just like muddy water. This is what it looks like. Oh, I burnt my tongue quite badly. Now, I'm going to give this a 2.3 out of 50. I will definitely finish it and definitely not throw it in the sea. That would be wasteful of something so delicious. Mmm, delicious. Oh look, there's so much more as well. Why did I use so much water? Mmm, delicious. Alright, let's get back to the car. Amanda Hamilton, founder of Drink Me Chai. I ain't gonna say nothing. Just, you name me something called Drink Me Chai and your name's Amanda, you know. There's a disconnect there.
After thoroughly enjoying such a delicious cup of chai, I packed up and made my way to the 4th stop along the Atlantic Highway. On day 1, we travelled across 3 beautiful cities along England's west coast, and today we are going to be stopping off at 3 more.
Yeah, let's go get some breakfast.
My next stop on the Atlantic Highway was the bustling seaside town of Newquay, and for breakfast this time I was going to see if I could get all the ingredients for a proper traditional British fry-up. Now the main components of a British fry-up are fried eggs, baked beans, grilled tomatoes, toast, mushroom, bacon and sausages. Now most of those ingredients should be easy to find. I'm not feeling that optimistic about finding halal versions of the last 2 though.
Oh my god, they do have meat-free bacon. Interesting.
After that surprising discovery, the rest of the shopping went by like a breeze.
Alright. We have got all the ingredients we need for our breakfast fry-up. It has now started raining, which I feel like has been the theme of this trip. I think the biggest difficulty I have is not finding the food. It's finding a place to cook the food. And again, this is an issue that most people wouldn't have because they would have a kitchen. Alright, how am I doing this? Let's get a workbench. I'm gonna cook here and I'll eat in the car. Could this go disastrously wrong? Yes. Will it? I don't know, maybe. Let's say there's a 10% chance. I mean, the food's gonna have what was I saying? The food's gonna have rain in it. Okay, the goal is to do everything in one pan. This is a one pan meal. Sausages first, because if they break apart then I can do bacon, then I'll do beans last, and that gets everything off of the thing. And then I'll toast. No way, I should do eggs first. I'll use this as a windbreak. That did not work as a windbreak. I think I may need to go somewhere less windy.
It was at this point that I had the genius realization that opening the boot of the car towards the very windy sea was probably not the wisest idea. I then utilized 100% of my brain and turned the car around so that I was no longer directly exposed to the wind from the sea.
Back to it, I suppose. I think that's better.
After implementing that big brain move, I was able to get started with cooking my breakfast without the stove being blown out by gale force winds.
Yeah, it's a hell of a lot better.
Here we are back at the cooking show portion of this video. So in this segment we will be doing a traditional British fry up a la rain and salt water. And if cooking in heavy rain and 30-mile-per-hour winds wasn't hard enough, we were also going to be making everything in one pan. Basically, being a professional chef at this point, I just like to push myself to achieve greatness. Ooh, look at that panhandling. Just call me Jamal Oliver at this point. Now that the eggs have firmed up a bit, I add the vegetarian, plant-based, chorizo-style sausages made from soya. Also gluten-free, so we're winning on all fronts with these sausages. The next addition into our one-pan fry-up is the imitation plant-based bacon that was a surprise find in the shop. By the way, this all smelled really good. Visually, it doesn't look the most appealing, but that's more down to my disastrous cooking capabilities, but it smelled really great. And that brings us to the last thing we need to heat up in the pan, the good old-fashioned Heinz baked beans. Not sponsored, unfortunately. Now, I know I mentioned that fry-ups also have grilled tomatoes and mushrooms, and the reason why this version of the British fry-up doesn't have them is because I completely forgot to buy them. Right up until I was at the checkout, and I wasn't going to go back to buy mushrooms.
Oh my goodness. Cooking without a kitchen is not for the faint-hearted. Forgot to season the egg. Oh well. I'll put it in between the bread like a sandwich. Alright, let's try each of these components. Okay, I know what bread and eggs taste like. Let's try the faken bacon. Oh, it's actually pretty good. Texture is slightly different, but taste-wise, it's not bad. Alright, let's try the sausage. Yeah, this is like a kick in the face with the seasoning, so in a good way, if that is such a thing. Can you be kicked in the face in a good way? I'm going to finish this breakfast, and then let's get on the road to the next stop on the Atlantic Highway road trip.
When talking about halal food, the conversation often gravitates towards halal meat and the accessibility of halal meat. However, through this entire trip, every single one of my meals has been vegetarian, which I think brings up the wider topic that doesn't always get mentioned when we have these discussions, and that is the fact that just like how Muslim society in the UK has changed over the past 50 years, wider society has also changed as well. And that brings us to a movement that has done a lot for Muslims living in this country, and that movement is veganism. Veganism is a lifestyle where one tries to eliminate all animal-based products from all aspects of their life, be it food, clothing, cosmetics, or toiletries. And although all those things are permissible for a Muslim, what veganism has done is increase the amount of options that Muslims have in mainstream places. It means that even in locations where there isn't a halal butcher in a 100-mile radius, you can still find options that are genuine alternatives to meat. So it means that even if you live in places without easy access to halal meat, your diet doesn't need to become completely different where the only thing you eat is salads and dal. There are now meat-like substitutes that imitate all different kinds of meat, and although they aren't an exact replica, it means that you are not having to adopt a completely foreign diet if you have to move to these places. You can still cook familiar meals. The only factor is the meat that you use won't really be meat, but it definitely will be halal.
Okay, so all the food that I've gotten has basically been vegetarian, let's be honest. Even though it's like imitation meat and soy meat and all those things, at the end of the day, it's all been vegetarian. So for the next stop, I want to try to get only halal certified foods to see what the options are.
Yep, it's time to see just how mainstream the concept of halal has become, and to see if even here in St. Ives, my penultimate stop along the Atlantic Highway, we can find halal certified food.
Okay, now I wasn't expecting to find a lot of things, so the fact that I found anything I would consider a win. So what did we get? Some fruit bars, which are halal certified, and then some cereal bars, which are also halal certified, HFA. And some crisps, Pringles, which are also HFA certified. So, all in all, not awful selection. I mean, yeah, it is all junk food, but the fact that there's anything at all shows that, you know, times are changing. We've just pulled up and stopped outside of this church so that we can try the halal certified food that we got from the store. I couldn't find anywhere else to park, but I did go for a long drive around the coast, which was very nice. Let's try some of these things. I mean, it's all junk food, so it's not like it's going to taste bad. I actually quite enjoy these normally anyway. Haven't had one in a long time, but Bismillah. Might as well have one of these. I was feeling really odd yesterday, and I think it was because of the sheer number of Red Bulls I drank, just because I didn't have any food.
Now, obviously, these snacks aren't really a replacement for a proper meal, and you definitely can't live off of junk food. Unless you're a uni student, then it's basically your bread and butter. But for the rest of us, these don't constitute a meal. But the fact that I was able to find anything at all shows how the tide is turning, and halal certified foods are becoming more mainstream. So much so that a big company like Pringles showcases the Halal Food Authority label on their tin.
I mean, you know, fruit leather. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not a very comprehensive meal, but it's the point that we were talking about. This isn't nice at all. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Oh, they give stickers! Yes, worth it. I would buy the pack just for the stickers. And now that we finished demolishing these snacks, we're on our way to the last stop on our journey, Penzance. So we've arrived in Penzance, and I think we've established the fact that you can find food to eat as a Muslim in the west coast of England. You can find vegetarian food quite easily. You can find halal certified food in stores. Granted, there is all junk food. But now I think we need to test whether or not you can find actual halal food in the west coast of England. So I think I need to go and order some food. This is definitely because we need to have a comprehensive review and test of the halal situation in the west coast, and not because I'm feeling lazy and can't be bothered to make any food. Definitely the first one. Alright, let's go. So Google is always a good place to go to look for halal food. Wow, my hair is just so windswept. Google's always a good place to go when looking for halal food, but you should never trust anything that you see on the internet. So I think we should verify. Trust but verify, as the Russians used to say. It was actually the KGB. Hi there, is your food halal?
It is halal, yes.
Everything's halal?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Brilliant. Verified. Okay, let's go and order some halal food. Let's go order some food for dinner. Hi, is your food halal? Yes. It is. Could I get a number 1, please? Okay, let's head off to the end of the world.
And here we are, the final drive of the road trip, and what a trip it has been. When I first started off in Barnstaple and I couldn't even find any breakfast, I thought this entire journey was going to be a failure and I'd remain hungry throughout all of it. Then when I got to Bude, and what a nice surprise it was, I was able to find all the ingredients for my lunch, only for it all to be washed away in torrential rain. Next to Wadebridge, where I was barely functioning after not having eaten for the entire day, and how delicious my final meal of the day ended up being, even though it was ready-made food and we're not really counting it. Then to Newquay, where my delicious English fry-up breakfast was only rivaled by the stunning beauty of the surroundings. On to St Ives, where my quest for halal certified foods was rewarded by bountiful snacks. And now, finally, the last few miles as we drive to Land's End at the edge of the British Isles to have one final delicious halal meal.
So halal food in Penzance, even though now we're in Land's End. Not bad. This chicken is crispy. Yeah, it's still juicy inside. But is it better than some of the food I've had the past 2 days? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the meatballs were good. The spaghetti was good. I mean, the 3 bites that I had. It was undercooked. That's on me. Sorry, I'm quite hungry. I should be talking more, eating less. But I am munching my way through this food. It's actually very good. It's quite cold. I'm going to stay here till the sun sets though. I've said this quote before, and I think it's still relevant even here. And that is a quote from Isaac Newton, that if we have seen further than others, it is by standing upon the shoulders of giants. So I think the only reason why we can have this conversation and talk about the fact that even here on the edge of England, the next landmass that way is New York, is America. You can still make a reasonable debate that there is more than enough food for a Muslim to eat. It's because both Muslim and non-Muslim people, the vegans, don't forget the vegans, they've done a lot for us. They made progress with making sure that there are a wide variety of food sources everywhere. So the question of the video, is it still okay to eat haram food? Well, no, I don't think so. I think we've seen that there's more than enough options, whether or not you want to go alternative meats or vegetarian or even halal food. There's more than enough options out there. So I guess my first answer at the beginning of this video was correct. So I guess I just wasted your time. Yeah. Well, sorry for wasting your time. Jazakallah khair for watching. See you next time. Assalamu alaikum. We did see some very nice scenery though, you know. Every single stop, breathtakingly beautiful. Even Bude with the torrential rain, still very pretty. So I guess there's that.